One of the key connections for online communities and as a use case is the whole idea of building great products. And a lot of organizations will set up their online community not just to reduce risk or deflect tickets, but to innovate what they do, which is why I am so excited today to be greeting my friend, Rachel Petzold, who is the product whisperer, an amazing product storyteller. We're going to be talking about the community product innovation connection on this episode of Talk About Your Community. Kalisa, let's roll the opening. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever in the world you may happen to be. You have tuned into Talk About Your Community, the show about community building in all of its various aspects and elements. I am Todd Nilson, your host, the owner and founder of Clocktower Advisors and various other community entities like the Community Consultants Collective and Talent Led, which is where I have been working very closely with my friend Rachel, who's our guest today. We, on this show, try to do an interactive every other week. If this is your first time joining the Talk About Your Community live stream, we welcome your comments and questions throughout the show. Sometimes interrupt the flow of the conversation to put a question on screen and try to make it as interactive and useful for you as possible. Show usually runs about 30 to 45 minutes, and we hope that you find it useful and interesting all the way through and stick with us. You can follow the show on here on LinkedIn, on the Clocktower Advisors company page, as well as on our YouTube channel for Clocktower Advisors. That being said, I do want to mention to you that we are not going to have a regularly live streamed show in 2 weeks. We had a little bit of a guest switch up for some of that, but we will be dropping an episode at some point over the next 2 weeks. I had a couple of really great interviews, one of which with Paul Schneider from Higher Logic Vanilla, and a really terrific conversation talking about the state of the online community platform space, as well as Jillian Betlick. I hope I pronounced her last name correctly. A dear friend from Calendly, who runs their online community. Both terrific conversations. You'll want to check those out when they drop, and they will be appearing here on LinkedIn as well as on YouTube. So check them out. But in the meantime, I've got my amazing friend here, Rachel Petzold, storyteller extraordinaire, product creator. You're full disclosure, you're chief product officer for Talent Led organization, and for our product, my co-founder for the product, along with my dear friend Ilker Akansel, our dear friend Ilker Akansel. Rachel, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Todd. Good day to you. How are you doing this morning?
I am doing great. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful day outside. They're doing road construction in front of my house here. So if there's a little bit of background noise, I apologize to you and our viewers. Hopefully it won't be too obnoxious. It's not been too bad so far, but it's been a terrific week. I am really enjoying life, and springtime is starting to show its first little tendrils of green here in Wisconsin, and that's always a nice thing to see. How about yourself? How are you?
Well, we've had storms here in Texas, in Frisco, and the bluebonnets are starting to poke up a little bit. Bluebonnets are one of those amazing things that Texas is pretty unique to. They're like a lupin, and they're so beautiful, and they take over the hillsides, and they've planted them on the side of the highways in some places. So that to me is a measure of, okay, it's spring, and I saw my first couple this week.
That sounds amazing. So Rachel, you and I met a year ago.
I know, it's been a year.
But I feel like you're one of those people I feel like I've known all my life, and I really appreciate the friendship and the partnership that we've developed since we met through the Fractionals United community.
Yes.
And we've continued that association through other amazing networking groups like the Connective. So shout out to the peeps in both of those communities and saying hello to them. tell me a little bit. Let's give everybody a little bit of a bio or a background of you. Like, what has been your journey into the world of product management, product creation?
Oh, thank you. Which superhero should I focus on, right? Because I've been lucky that I've done so many different things in my career. I worked at big companies like Amazon and Starbucks and started at Nike in kind of my big company realm. But now I spend a lot of my time working with startups and on really interesting innovation work. I've realized the thing that I love to do is actually the storytelling, the narrative. And it's not marketing narrative. It's really like, who are we listening to? Who are we talking to? How do we make sure that the voices come in and we don't let them take over and diverge us from the path that we're trying to go on? And so now, as Chief Product Officer for Talent Led and for a couple other startups, for my own business as CEO, helping businesses and innovation teams figure out what they should say, how they should say it, and what they're hearing, distilling data and analysis into something that we can take action on. It's been really fun to kind of wander my path and get to where I am.
That's amazing. And I mean, you've been such an essential part of the work we've been doing for the startup for Talent Led. For those that may not know, so Talent Led is our product brainchild to try to help humanize the recruitment process through the creation of a talent community app. And it's kind of a unique thing. Not to spill too much of the secret sauce around this thing, but we're excited about it because we think that it can really make that whole interaction with the members of the work team that you're thinking about joining a lot more down to earth and informal. You can have some interactions with the people that you're going to be working with before you join the company and really have a sense of, your cultural fit for an organization with what we're building. And I think so much of what I've learned around what you do as a product storyteller has come from our direct experiences working together through that world and through that lens. Particularly, things like just sort of distilling down our big picture ideas down into actionable things, like and how we build that into a UX, and how built out that actually needs to be able to forward the idea and bring it to market. Man, I can't even do justice to how much clarity you've brought to that process, but I think, for the purposes of our conversation today, I am really interested in exploring that connection between community, whether it's online community or a group of people that would be using a particular product or app, and that product creation process.
Yes.
And talking to people and understanding what they need, what they want, from it. And I think about like it's hard to not to think of like people like Steve Jobs when you think about innovation, sort of the lone innovator who has this vision for a product versus community, and the people that would actually be using that product, that people that would consume or make use of it. What do you find is more often the case, and or is that a false dichotomy that I'm setting up? I'm interested in your take on it.
That's a great question. And there are so many different flavors of the same. Sometimes you have a very innovative leader that empowers the team, but then always comes around and kind of goes, no, I want you to do what I said. Don't do what you think. And innovation is such an interesting place because a lot of people they fall in love with the solution. We've talked about this many times, you and I. Falling in love with the solution is very common. It's like, I have a thing, I think it's shiny, I want to go build that. And whether it's the founder or the product team or the engineers or whoever is kind of coming up with these ideas, until we know the people that are going to be using it and what they actually believe and what they actually feel, we can miss the boat, and we can miss the boat big. Many a startup has invested $1 million in building a tool or a product, taken it to try to get product market fit after that huge investment, and suddenly realize nobody's interested. They built the wrong thing, or they built it for the wrong people with the wrong opinions and impressions in it. There's likelihood that during any product journey, and we've been on a couple of these, like we fell and skinned our knees a couple of times early, because that's what you have to do. Go big or go home with the ideas. Many times when you're working toward an idea of something, you find a breadcrumb that takes you down a completely different path. And with Talent Led as the example, the perfect moment that we came to was a moment when we realized the talent although they would not be the people, the recruits, they would not be the people that would be paying for access to this thing. They are the ones with a strong opinion about what it can be, what it should be. We have to balance that with the opinions and the impressions of the people who are going to pay for it, because no app can survive for free in the wild. It just doesn't work that way. This is a business, and we have to make business decisions. So finding the blend of what the customer that wants to buy this, because they want talent to be happy in the recruiting process. We hear all the time from people that work within companies that say it's just horrible. I don't have time to talk to people. I can't answer their questions. We want to plug that gap, and we want to give them a way that they can do that authentically, that feels really warm and inviting. And we know the recruits, the people that are talent, they're going to hop on board right away, because we're giving them access to somebody who can answer their questions. Nobody wants to be ghosted. And so this gives you an avenue to not be ghosted. What an amazing thing that's going to be.
Obviously, we're both excited about it, as what we're creating. And I think that, when I think about another avenue, for that, like part of the inspiration for this was that, so many of the recruiting processes, so many of the hiring processes for organizations right now are built around formalized interviews.
Yes.
And so, like, I always liken that to, you're inviting your first date to a fancy French restaurant. Like, that's high pressure. Everybody is fronting about what they are, or what they, like, the company's probably painting too rosy a picture of what they are. The candidate is, the talent is painting too rosy a picture of what they are. Like, there needs to be a place where that tension is ratcheted down to something less formal, to another channel. And, I think what, obviously my point of view around this, Ilker's point of view around this, and I think your point of view around this is that an online community informalizes some of that relationship, and it offers a channel that's a little more casual, more asynchronous, and a way to just ask those questions that the 500 questions that you have that you didn't get a chance to ask in the formal interview process.
Absolutely. And to add on to that, the other piece about community that's so beautiful in any use case is that the feedback is more natural. When you're asking a direct question and you're on the spot and you're in the hot seat, you've prepared for that question, you rehearsed it in your mind, you state it the way you've practiced it, but nobody ever gets to see your soul in that moment. They get to see how practiced you are or how rehearsed you can be, but they don't actually get to find the core of you, who you are, how you really want to show up. In communities, the conversation flows, ebbs and flows, but flows in a way that is a little more authentic. Of course, as we both know, that also means you get a lot of feedback, and you have to figure out how to point toward the right feedback to do the right thing at the right time. But it gives us a different kind of connection to people and their information. And then it's a mechanism to be able to respond back. Mm-hmm. In an interview, as a candidate, you sit there and you answer the questions asked of you. And you're getting there. It's a firing squad method. That person talks, then that person talks, and you're turning and you're looking. But when you're in a conversation in a community, it's both sides. It's flow. It's more gentle and genuine, and there can be prickly conversations there, but you have the ability to understand that it is a back and forth. It's not singular.
Yeah, I absolutely love that, and so I just want to take a pause here to say a quick shout out to some of the folks that have already chimed in on the chat. This is going to be a lively one, I think. Welcome to Randall Naval, who jumped on to add the comment. Fall in love with the problem, not the solution. Such great advice.
Randall, hey, love you, man.
And then also a shout out to my buddy Todd Jones from the Community Consultants Collective, who's a content strategist and storyteller in his own right. Amazing guy. Be terrific to work with. There's a story in spending money for the wrong audience or the wrong product. I love that. Do you have any reaction to that, Rachel?
Yes, I've seen it done, and I've actually been kind of forced to do it in earlier times in my career, where I was told, no, we're doing this and this is what we're doing, even though I was getting data or even just getting that spidey sense that we were not going the right direction. And it's an expensive lesson to learn. Companies have closed divisions because of bad decisions, or because of marching orders that were given from somebody at the top that didn't understand or wasn't taking the feedback the right way. That's a great comment, Todd. Absolutely agree.
Wonderful. And then there's another individual joining. Unfortunately, I can't see who is saying this on LinkedIn. Maybe Kalisa can let us know. But this is such a great point, Rachel. Responding authentically, is this your weapon? Absolutely. At the end of the day, you solve problems faster when you're speaking from your soul.
Yes. And you may know I'm a little bit soulful. I'm all about what is our archetype? How can I bring out the good in my archetypes? How can I eliminate those that have a tendency to be more prickly? Because, being the center as somebody who's leading product, and especially product narrative, where we're taking a lot of inputs and we have to figure out the spot we should focus on, you have to take your ego out of it a little bit. I have strong opinions. I have very strong opinions. And as a younger product leader, I was opinionated, sometimes to the point of my own detriment. And as I learned and as I grew, it became, you listen to the masses, you distill it into the specific, and then you find your pinpoint. And when we can find a pinpoint from that data, we can change everything. We can find the thing that is going to change the business, our revenue stream, and the experience for the users.
Thank you for that comment. That's Megan Redling.
Megan, hey.
Thank you so much for joining. Terrific to have you tuning into the show. So, Rachel, I wanted to come back to something you mentioned a little earlier about the sort of feedback mechanisms and sort of thinking about this. And I think about this connection between communities and innovation or product creation. And this is not an uncommon use case for online communities, especially like software as a service, tech companies, startups. You have a product, you're trying to innovate it, and ideally you're going to get collaboration with the customer. Like, you hear what they like, you hear what they don't like, you hear what's there. What, in your experience, like, how has community helped inform the products that you've worked on, like in terms of collaboration, in terms of tension between what leadership wants and what the customer wants, or even maybe validation of those concepts? Maybe it's all the above. I don't know.
It can be. So, funny story. I love to get feedback from all sorts of different avenues. So one of my favorite ways to do that is to take an 11 by 17 sheet of paper and a Sharpie to Starbucks and to sit at Starbucks. And I started doing this when I worked at Starbucks, so that made sense. But I still do it today. If I have a sense that the data is telling me something, but I really need validation, sometimes face-to-face is the best way to do that. And that's when I go to Starbucks and I sketch on the table and people come up and go, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Hey, can I buy you a coffee? I want to see what you think of something." And they get really excited about being able to participate in it. So communities just accelerates that. You have the ability to talk to a lot of people, and not all of them are the people that you think are your targets. And that's usually where the gemstones lay, is when you find somebody that isn't saying, "I use this and I want it this way," but you find somebody that's taking a step back and looking at it from a different purview. My Starbucks methodology, same thing. The communities help us get feedback from people that aren't fans or that don't like it. And they say the truth. And sometimes that truth can help you look at the rest of the feedback, the big pile of love notes and happiness, and figure out that not everybody that is your unique person that you want to be getting feedback from is the best person. And communities allow us to have those people with diverse ideas.
What I love so much about that approach is it really taps into, I think, the natural desire of most of us to help.
Yes.
And so there's something innately wonderful about being asked for help. What is your opinion? What do you think of this? You can really help me make this something amazing. And I don't know of many people who just decline to help. Like, I'm suspicious of those individuals, but I think sort of that's something at the heart of all community building, which is like a recognition that we're trying to work towards a goal that helps all of us rather than just me, in my approach.
Exactly.
Super nice. Well, let me kind of flip the question a little bit and ask, has community ever derailed or totally wrecked an idea for a product?
Yes, I know that's not a surprise. Picture this. We decided to go to LinkedIn and put a post on LinkedIn about how we want to get feedback from people on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a community. There's a lot of people there. They can have direct messaging so they can keep themselves kind of confidential and private. If I went to LinkedIn And I asked on LinkedIn about this product nobody has ever seen or heard of called Facebook. And I'm just exploring Facebook, and we're trying to figure out how to make Facebook. Can you imagine how many different opinions there would be, especially since Facebook isn't real yet? Nobody's ever played on Facebook. It's never been its good, bad, ugly stuff that we know right now. But if you take a new idea to a community, you can end up with so much analysis paralysis. Like, which of these opinions should matter? That's why you kind of need to have your personas defined before you start gathering feedback, so you at least know who you think your targets are. But the best learning I ever had was a community when I was at Nike, our internal employee community. We had a great online portal where you could chat with people. I had a product I was launching, a physical product that was not a shoe, and it wasn't a jacket. It was a digital device. And we put it out there. How would you feel about this? And it was a landslide of hate and anger. How dare you measure my activity that way? You're not going to get it right. I need to have somebody with kinesiology background. What is the data you're using? It was just this massive blast from our internal users. But Nike employees are opinionated, and should be. They work at one of the top companies in the world. They work in innovation all the time. And so what we did is we went out and we did a similar to the Starbucks test. We did a test with high school athletes that were running around a track. And we measured their behavior, wearing a device on their wrist, and came back. And when we came back, suddenly we had all these people that were so excited. They wanted to sign up for it. Can I have it? Can I keep it? And so we realized we were asking the wrong people for the right advice.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. I'll just kind of mention, so Rachel, you had offered, as part of being on the show here today,
Yes.
And I wanted to drop this as a teaser before we got to the end of the episode, that you wanted to give away a storytelling session. You want to tell everybody what that's about a little bit?
Absolutely. So I love to sit with people. Sometimes it's people that are looking for work and are trying to figure out how to reframe the way they talk about themselves. Sometimes it's businesses that are finding that their narrative just isn't really resonating with people. It's not really a marketing. I'm not writing copy for your website, but it's helping you pinpoint that thing that you are. And the reason I think this is so valuable is because I kind of had to do it with myself. I went out into the world as a fractional and said, I'm a chief product officer. I'm a head of product. I work in product. And everybody would just stare at me and go, and? So what do you do that nobody else does? Or what does a product person do? And it was when I started getting startups like ours, like Talent Led, to go down the right path, because I was helping us pick the tiniest little piece of a story as a place to start that changed everything. So I want to offer a 1-hour session to people who are willing to drop their email. Can we have them drop it in the chat so that we can follow up afterwards, or what's the best way, Todd?
I think what we can do is they can say that they're interested, and then we can do a randomized selection.
Yes, we'll pick somebody.
Yeah.
This is typically $1,500 that I charge people for this. And so out the other end of this comes 3 slides that really help define and distill your story, your narrative, to something that people are immediately going to say, I know how to buy you. I know where to place you. I know who to put you in touch with, so that you can make some progress in your life.
Fantastic. No, I think it's a tremendously valuable thing. It's an exercise that I think I did a little early on with you, as you were sort of developing the offering, and it was a terrific experience to be able to go through that and talk a little bit and sort of gain insight into how I like to communicate, how I like to go to market, through Clocktower, through Talent Led, through the CCC, as a person. Yes. It was extremely insightful and helpful to do that. And you were a great facilitator through that process.
Thank you.
So do you want to add a couple of comments here as we were going on? Todd Jones had offered this comment along the way. Fewer people knows their customers than my coffee shop owner. His team is amazing.
High five to Todd's coffee shop owner.
Very nice, very nice. And then Randall had a comment here I wanted to add as well, which is a great point. Having community design is not the same as getting feedback from a community on the problem. And I was going to ask this question about, the whole idea of, being derailed, by, community designed by committee
Yes.
is kind of a path to failure, right?
It is. I have actually resigned from roles where design by committee was part of the DNA of a company, or where the decisions had been made so long ago that they weren't really valid anymore. And it was obvious because we weren't getting that feedback about the ideas the way we should. And something to remember here, and this is a great comment, Randall, because something to remember here is that the design phase has to be opinionated, and it has to be something that there is buy-in from the people at the top of an organization. If you're a product manager or somebody working in product or UX design, and you're given a task and there's not alignment at the top of the people who are going to fund it, support it, it can be really a challenge. But once you get to that point where you are designing the thing that everybody agrees is the thing that has to be designed, not the minutia, but the big picture, then the feedback that you get from people that could use it is so valuable. But they shouldn't offer design recommendations or even, hey, this is the product I want from you. I've had people do that to me before, and it sort of sucks your soul out a little bit. If you're trying to figure out who you are and go out there as a product yourself, being guided by somebody else's opinions can hurt. So you should feel solidly that you're going the right direction yourself. The data should tell you that. And then the feedback is really on the incremental changes for that community feedback.
Wonderful. Randall, thanks again for the comment. That's a terrific insight. Rachel, I'm kind of wondering, as you've worked with large organizations and small, and you kind of talked about you like working with startups right now. When you're shaping a product story, how's it different in a large enterprise versus a smaller startup in your view? And I'm sort of interested in sort of why you've now gravitated to the startup world a little bit more.
It's hard to find roles where you get to run something that's big, that's important, unless you're boots on the ground at a startup. Going into a corporation today, I might be somebody who's one of 9 people that own a piece of a product or a piece of an innovation idea that's going out there. And I like to own more than that. I'm a little selfish and greedy because I do like to help take the little bit of sand and make it into the pearl that we're going to make it into. And I like to have my hands in that. And I like to have other people working on it too. But the leading and guiding and making sure that we're making good decisions and that we're pausing for the right conversations at the right time is something that I love to do. And the opportunities for that are more often found in startups because you're doing something really big, kind of from the very beginning. I also have to be Jiminy Cricket on Todd's shoulder and say, I don't think we should do this. Please don't do this. This is not a good idea. And you have to have a pretty solid constitution to put up with the fact that you might hurt somebody's feelings or say something that, that gets us away from the idea of the product. I've had to tell founders that it's not a good idea at all. And I'm not very popular sometimes when I come to the table and say, this isn't a good idea. We're wasting money. Your money is important. Your success is important, but this is not the way we're going to get there.
I was gonna ask the question of like, where do you how do you draw the boundaries of like tough love, with
tough love. Right? I apply them with candy and maple bars and whatever else they love. I've been known to send sugar wishes to people that are right. There's a Rachel plant because of
Rachel plant behind me. Yes.
Go download Sugar Wish if you don't have it already. It's an awesome tool. It's the best thing. If you forget somebody's birthday, you can still send them a gift that day. It's awesome. And they get to pick something. That's a product that's beautiful, right? So what if that product had started and some decisions had been made that did not solve the problem that I have of I'm terrible about remembering birthdays. I want to have something that I can send to Todd that's really important, that I send him something today. I want him to pick what he wants because I don't know if he likes wine or bourbon or candy or whatever else. And so here was a company. Right, exactly. There is nothing on that list I wouldn't take. How could I not offer you something where you get to go have a little adventure? It's a choose your own adventure kind of game. And then you get to pick the thing that you want. I can decide what I can afford. And then I always upgrade to the shipping so that you get it in a couple of days instead of having to wait a couple of weeks. So I get to celebrate you in a way that is both of us celebrating together. And then I always get to hear about the thing that you got. I use this all the time for people. And it's that kind of a product where at the beginning, if somebody had said, oh, well, but because of cash flow or because of how hard it's going to be to get a plant, a peace lily to somebody quickly that's going to survive, all those things could aside sidetracked and derailed the product. But what they decided was that they wanted that experience to be so important. And they did a ton of research and feedback. I mean, obviously, I would go to work for them in an instant because I think their product is brilliant. And I think as the world is hard, you want to have a product that makes people feel good. Mm-hmm. And that made you feel good, didn't it? When you got a
totally
surprise? I mean, right. Yeah. How could you not say a present?
Right. Yeah. Right. No, I love it. And you know, there was a choice that I could pick, you know, what I wanted to get. And I was like, I'm all about growing plants and things like that. So that was terrific. Yeah. But I think, like, coming back to sort of the tough love question, I think, you know, one of the things in my experience as you were working with Ilker and I and the rest of our team in the startup was continuing to gently but insistently remind us this is not the first version of the product. Like, that, you know, if we're trying to get this, it's got to be a minimally lovable product. Yes. Which means that it needs to be appealing to a customer, you know, to buy it, but we can't overbuild what we're creating. Like, there's a lot of stuff we're going to put in the parking lot for later on. Like, yes, these are great ideas, but we can't do them immediately, right?
Exactly.
And I think, like, one of the things you do is sort of shaping that product story is like recognizing what that product story narrative is. Yes. And helping us to stay true to that and not get distracted by a lot of other shiny objects, you know, that so many inevitably occur to creative founders.
Creative people are the most fun. Yeah, it kind of makes me sad sometimes because I do have to do the tough love thing. And I try to start it by starting conversations and letting you all get there on your own as much as possible, because then it's easier, truthfully, if people come to the conclusion themselves, are like, oh, I hadn't thought about it or I hadn't noticed. But sometimes I have to be the one to say, look, I don't want you spending $1,000 to build the user experience on this piece because I don't believe in it yet. If we need to revisit this, let's do this, but put it in the backlog for the moment because I'm not there yet. And the people who trust me and trust my gut, because my gut has been right, a bit in my career, not always, but a bit in my career. That's helpful because we really should be focusing on the things that are really clearly going to be the big wins so that we can get to market and get customers and then get their feedback on what we want to add to it. But those early stages, you have to be really specific about being as small as you can.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And just by way of further endorsement of your wisdom in bringing products to market, I'll put up this comment from Randall saying, having been on the receiving end of Rachel's powerful insight, I cannot recommend her impact highly enough. What a nice testimonial on the work that you do.
Randall is amazing. And he is a product person in his own right. Everybody should listen to him.
Yeah. Oh, and then I think this is Megan again, making the point to Randall. Makes me think of all the design by committee situations I've gotten caught up in. Yes.
Design by committee is the worst. Having somebody that owns what is being worked on is really critical. And a lot of times the product leader wants to be the owner, but there are other people that we have to be responsible to. And some of my least favorite roles or least favorite work have been where I would be told, yeah, that's great. We all agree with you. I go off, I do something, I come back and they say, you're crazy. We never said to do that. That is not a place where a product person is going to thrive. And I didn't stay at those companies for long because you have to empower. If you're going to empower me, if I'm responsible and accountable, I must be empowered.
I love that. So, Rachel, like, having been having had the opportunity to work with you over the past year and sort of build out our product idea and try to get there, and I feel like I've been through the experience of you creating the product narrative or the story around what we're creating, but I don't know that I've necessarily twigged to, you know, whether you have sort of an approach or a framework that you follow when you do this work. And I'm wondering if you wanted to talk maybe a little bit about, you know, hey, I have an opportunity to talk to a new entrepreneur or innovator who's got an idea for a product. How do you go about helping them shape that into a narrative?
I have a specific approach. It's called chaos and innuendo. And what you do is you just start talking. You start talking about ideas. You talk about impressions. You talk about what they've done, what they've discovered, what they've come to the conclusion of. And then I say, and what does the data tell you? And a lot of times they don't know how to go look for the data. So my first approach is always to say, well, let's take this great idea that you have and let's see if it has legs. Like, this is before product market fit, which people talk about all the time. Product market fit is basically you have a customer that pays for something and they like it. That's product market fit. When you find that, then everything is, greenfield, we can keep going. But when ideas are early, people don't know who to ask. I have a startup founder I'm working with right now that's like, I have this great thing and it's going to be amazing, but how do I get to the person that's going to buy it? I don't even know how to get to that person yet. That is where I come in. And that is where I start talking about, well, these are the people we could talk to. And I think that comes from being a data geek. At the end of the time, I am researching all the time. I read voraciously. I understand how to look at something and think about all the different places that it might sell, all the different people that might buy it or want to use it. When AI was first coming out, here's a perfect example. Somebody came to me and said, well, we want to build AI. And I'm like, AI is like saying, I want to build an Excel spreadsheet. Mm-hmm. Tell me what you're trying to accomplish. And then we'll see if AI is something that can help unlock that. And it ended up that it did, and it was. But I think that was a little mind shift for them. They were like, oh, we didn't think about it that way. I said, because AI is not a product. AI is a capability. It is no different than a spreadsheet. If you think about it in depth, it's just that it's a smart spreadsheet and it knows how to search differently. And it goes out and it finds more spreadsheets to bring into the spreadsheet. That's AI in a nutshell. So if you want the solution and you don't have that problem in mind, you're falling in love with the solution again.
Love it. Love it. What you said about sort of starting with the chaos, or just, getting the founder talking a little bit, reminds me of something a wise old professor of mine once said. He says, you start somewhere and you go anywhere. That's how you begin.
That's a great one.
Which can seem chaotic, but it's really not, because part of it is just to get the ideas flowing to begin with. And I think that having someone that's asking questions in an interested way and is there to help you shape that up is, I think, an incredibly powerful thing. Also wanted to give a shout out that one of Rachel's superpowers is her amazing ability to connect with others. You have just a tremendous network. I know that, you brought me into the Connective, which has been a really valuable space for me to be involved with. You are among the most celebrated people in that particular community because of all the value that you bring in and the people that you bring in. So
thank you.
Kudos to you for that. Yes. And Todd made the comment, AI is not a product, it's a capability. I like that. Great way of putting it. Yes.
And it's expensive. Just wait until they start making us pay for it. Oh boy.
Rachel, the time is flying by, but I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about one of the products that you're working with right now that's just going through its launch. That's called Emily AI. Do you want to tell people a little bit about that journey?
Absolutely. So through the Connective, I actually met Gersh and Michael. They are the founders of Emily AI. They had launched the Emily AI product. And this is, in the AI world, something really unique. It's AI that's closed. So it brings in information from all those large language models, from all the data that's available and that's being parsed elsewhere. But then it brings it into a walled garden where it never leaves again. And it's collecting the data that people are saying, that people are writing within your business. So if somebody very senior in your company happens to pass away, which happened to one of my customers recently, and they walk, they're not in the building anymore, they can't come back, they can't give you all of the stuff. It's in the system so that you can tap in and maybe bring that person's voice back to life and understand the value that they brought, and they're never really going to leave. So Emily AI is very cool. And when they brought me in about 6 weeks ago, we were just chatting and I did a little storytelling session with them, and they realized the framing of the language on their website was something that they wanted to improve. So I helped a little bit on that. And then they talked about this other cool thing they have called Periscope. And think about a periscope on a submarine, it pops its head up and it's looking around. So Periscope is another AI product. And Periscope right now is focusing on dossier. A dossier is like James Bond. Like, you need to know who the supervillain is. Here, we're going to tell you all the things about the supervillain so you can find them, so you'll recognize them, so you know what's going on. But with dossier from Periscope, we're doing that so that people that are looking to find new customers, or maybe find out more about the hiring manager they're going to have to interview with, they can find out about their personality, about the language that could be used to help people get in the door with them and start a great authentic relationship and conversation. And so that you can also look and see, well, maybe they're not a good fit for what I thought. It's a great way to take the data that's publicly available on the internet and come back with something. And Todd, my friend, is the face of our first marketing campaign. And I have his, I'm going to post it on social. I really think I'm going to, because I think it would be cool for people to see the kind of information that's available. But it tells the story of Todd and how you can send your first email and get the right response back so that you don't offend, but so that you understand kind of if they're somebody who doesn't share or shares a lot or something in between. Sort of what your archetype is from the disc profile and other things. And that's awesome. And so we just launched that. And if anybody is interested in getting on board with Dossier, there is a sign up that's going to be live in a couple of weeks, but you can just email me at Rachel, Rachel, at Emily, EMELY.ai. And I can get you in the founder circle, which is what we're building out right now. We want founders who get a big discount forever to be our feedback loop. So we love people that provide feedback on it.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Rachel, I can't believe we're really winding up on close to 45 minutes here. I wanted to give you a chance to chat about anything else that you're maybe excited about that's top of mind that you're working on right now. I know you've got a number of irons in the fire. Anything else you want to give a shout out to?
I do. I'm focusing right now and going to be launching a podcast with my great friend Megan Redling, who happens to be listening in on the call. We're going to be talking about the triangle of product, project, and program management, and how people that have a P at the beginning of their title are not all the same.
Very good. Very good. That's going to be a great one to tune into. We'll be sure to cross promote it on the Clocktower Advisors company page when that comes up, and on my feed as well. I want to get that maximum exposure because it sounds like a great podcast. And Megan, I'll look forward to tuning into that. So thanks for joining the show today. So as we kind of wrap up, any final words of wisdom about shaping product stories for organizations? How you decide what not to include, like any kind of danger Will Robinson signs of that your product story may be going off the rails. I know we've talked about a lot of stuff, so if you don't have anything top of mind, that's not a big deal. But I do want to give you a chance to chat about that a little further.
Well, I was my own worst enemy when I was first looking for ways to promote my own business and what I was doing. And what I realized was I didn't feel good about the words I was using about who I was. They felt forced. They didn't feel authentic. So when you're talking about your product, and that product may be you or a service that you offer, the moment that it feels a little bubbly, like you just had a drink of some Pellegrino or champagne, maybe, there's something there. So follow your instincts that those things that feel good are going to roll off your tongue a little more naturally. You're going to feel more confident about them, and just keep iterating until you get it so right that you're like me, the product storyteller, who finally knows who I am and how I should show up.
I love that notion of, and I don't know how literally you meant this, but I'm taking it literally, that idea of how does it roll off your tongue?
Yes.
As someone who was trained, in writing disciplines and as a journalist and as an academic writer, whenever you give a verbal presentation to something, when you have to say the words, when you have to narrate something aloud, you're right. It literally can sound jarring on your ear if it's not right, or you recognize when you got the phrasing just so in a way that it sits well with you, and that's something on an instinctive emotional level. I think that hits us. It's really that's a wonderful insight. Thank you for that. Rachel, if someone wants to get in touch with you, if they want to engage you as a product whisperer, they're not allowed to hire you. No, I'm just kidding. What's a good way to get in touch?
Yeah, you can always email me. Obviously, the Emily AI email works too, but my business is Gossamer, and that's named after what my dad used to call me, a little gossamer butterfly flitting all over the place. I think that's why I'm good at product. So it's Rachel and it's Rachel at Gossamer, GOSSAMER.global, because we're all global people these days.
Wonderful. And we will be announcing the storyteller session awardee after this. If you are interested, just be sure to pipe up in the chat either now or after in the replay. If you happen to see this, let us know, and we'll be announcing a winner for that. I think by next week. Lisa said she was going to collect the comments and go with that. But Rachel, I can't believe I didn't have you on the show before now, but it's really great to have you here. Really appreciate all you do, your insights, your friendship, your kindness, and those people who haven't met you need to meet you, because you make a big difference in people's lives. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. And for those of you who tuned in, thank you so much for joining Talk About Your Community. We are in the wrap up here. And just wanted to remind you again, no scheduled live stream for 2 weeks from now, a little bit of a schedule change around that, but we will be dropping a video for a pre-recorded show, either of Paul Schneider or Jillian Betlick, both of which were amazing interviews. We'll just get one of those to market for you in the next 2 weeks. So be watching for that on the Clocktower Advisors channel, as well as on our YouTube channel as well. And in the meantime, of course, always honored if you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Love to get comments. I try to respond to everyone that I see. And if you can share this with anyone else that you think would be interested in today's conversation, would also be honored by that. In the meantime, please take care of yourselves. Get away from the screens. Get outdoors into the sunlight. Breathe the fresh air of spring, and take some time for yourselves, because if you're not good to yourself, you're not going to be good to anybody else. And in the meantime, please keep building great communities. Kalisa, let's roll the credits. We'll see you guys soon. Thanks, Rachel.